Here's an individual who says, it's a bit unfair, though, in this part of the world, starchy foods form a part of the normal diet. Now, he doesn't say where he's from. And reading a little bit between the lines, he's declaring this is unfair because we all eat starchy foods. That's about all we have to eat. We don't eat junk. He says a meal consists of meat, starchy vegetables, and other vegetables. One didn't sit there eating donuts all day in order to get hit by unexpected health issues. Well, yeah, I get what you're saying. And sometimes you're saying to yourself, well, I don't eat all that unhealthy. I think part of it is we don't understand what unhealthy eating is, period. And I will say this, I'm not familiar with lots of parts of the world. My experience with the world is America, obviously. And I've spent quite a bit of time in Africa and married an African wife, so I know quite a bit about Africans in Africa and how it works there. Been to the Philippines quite a few times, been to India quite a few times. So I know a little bit about those places, but there's a lot of places I haven't been. But I will say this, of the what we used to call third world countries that I've been to, junk has pervaded those countries. I mean, there's junk foods, there's white flour products, there's sugary treats all over the place in Africa, in India, in the Philippines. So the idea that, well, we're not American and so we don't eat the junk food. America has done a terrible disservice to the world by exporting her junk. And now it's pretty much everywhere. So very few people can say, I eat a healthy diet and I still got diabetes. They might say, I don't eat candy and I still get diabetes. But we have to sort of revise our idea of what junk food is. To me, if you're eating a sandwich with white bread on top and bottom, you're eating junk food. In fact, I think you could say the same thing with whole wheat flour bread, whole wheat bread. Eating sandwiches is eating junk food. You're eating a pizza with that big, thick crust made from white flour, you're eating junk food. You're drinking orange juice, you're drinking junk food. You're drinking grape juice, crammed and jammed with sugar. Some people say, well, they didn't add any sugar. No, they just concentrated it and kept sucking the water out until all that was left was pretty much sugar and grapes. And then they poured in a little extra water. Junk food. So we need to revise our idea of what junk food is. And the problem is once you cross the line into diabetes, you become resistant to almost all carbs. You have trouble with almost all carbs. Big white potato, you have a problem with it. Corn on the cob, you may have a problem with that. Now, probably if you could go your whole life just eating healthier carbs, like some potatoes and corn and some meat, and you could stay slim, and that's an important part of the formula, you could probably live to 80, 90 years old without getting diabetes or having serious metabolic issues. But very few people do it that way. Number one, most of the world is either overweight or on their way to become overweight. And number two, like I said, snacks are everywhere. Chips are junk food. You take some corn and you press it and make it flat and you add some salt to it and you just stuff those chips in your mouth saying, well, at least it's not candy, baby. It's not candy. No, it's not candy, but it might as well be. Those chips are going into your stomach and turning immediately into sugar. And white bread is always sugar. You know, you go to an Italian restaurant and they serve you bread rolls. Junk food. Doesn't look like junk food, doesn't say junk food on the bread roll, but it's made out of white flour. It's junk food. And then they serve you some kind of a nice dish with some sauce on it, and they pour it over noodles, lots and lots of noodles made from, guess what, white flour, junk food. So you go to this restaurant, you pride yourself on the fact that, I didn't have any cake. I didn't have any ice cream. I didn't have any French silk pie. And yet you ate those bread rolls, you stuffed that white flour in your mouth from those bread rolls, and you ate that huge plate full of noodles made from, again, white flour that are going to immediately turn into sugar in your body? Yeah, my friend, you ate junk food. So sometimes people get diabetes and they say, now, wait a minute. I don't eat junk food. I watch my diet. I eat healthy. You may not eat as healthy as you think you do. And that's what, channels like this one are all about. We need to rethink our definition of what is junk food. Okay, here is another comment. And this person has a word of advice to the whole low-carb community. And he wants to tell people with diabetic issues a little bit about his story. He says, "Take my advice, fellow low-carb community. I was keto, sometimes carnivore, with intermittent fasting. Should not have any problems, right?" He says, "It did me a wonderful world of good in reducing inflammation, lowering sugar levels, and I became no longer diabetic." I know people will have a problem, but we're talking about the numbers here. By the numbers, he was not diabetic, A1C, fasting glucose. "I stayed that way for a good couple of years." Good for you. "I would flirt with carbs on a rare occasion, but almost never, and when I did, it was in very small amounts." Sounds good to me. That did not affect me. However, there's a big however here, the past couple of days, I went crazy with ice cream. Now, I have to confess, I don't understand why you would, after you've seen that much victory and you've been in that kind of a lifestyle for a couple of years now and you're seeing the victory. But he did. He says, "I went crazy with ice cream. I ate the whole tub of ice cream. It looked like around a gallon, probably a half gallon. They normally sell it by the half gallon, I think. And it had probably over 500 grams of sugar." Whoa. That's like suicide by sugar. "The next day I went to town, went hog wild by eating almost an entire huge pack of strawberry Newtons." Again, I don't quite understand how anybody would do this. If you just kind of gotten into a new lifestyle and then you revert back after a month or two, I'd get it. But if you've been doing this a couple of years, why would you? But he did. So, big old tub of ice cream the night before. The next day, a huge container of strawberry Newtons. Didn't know those were still around. He says, "I woke up the next day nauseous, my belly bloating up like a basketball." So bloating, alarmingly painful inflammation in my ankles and joints. His joints are killing him all of a sudden. It was like turning on a switch, and the symptoms of diabetes type 2 turned right back on. Wow. Well, the old saying, "A word to the wise is sufficient." Some people say, "Well, can I cheat, Dennis? Can I cheat?" Well, you can do whatever you like, but I sure wouldn't. My idea of cheating is having a low-carb breakfast on Saturday morning when I normally have bulletproof coffee. That's my cheating. Or having a keto dessert on Saturday night separated by a couple of hours from my main meal. That's sort of a cheat for me. But the idea of, first of all, I don't even see the reason for it, because you can have keto desserts. And secondly, why would you stuff yourself? But regardless of why he did it, the point is, immediately says it's like you flip the switch back to diabetes. Now, I know what some people would say. Aha, you see, you were never healed of diabetes. You were never cured of diabetes. You were never delivered of diabetes. You just avoided it temporarily and you went back to eating that junk. They won't say junk, but you went back to eating a normal diet, is the way they'll put it. And look what happens. You see, you are never healed. And you can almost, if they write it, you can feel the contempt and the mockery. Some people don't like it when people say, "I've reversed my diabetes. I've been healed of diabetes." Well, when all the symptoms are gone and when your numbers are down and your insulin level is down, to me, that's a healing. But imagine a teenager who is just a wild driver. He just got his license. He drives too fast, too recklessly. Half the time he gets drunk and drives, and he has accident after accident and gets ticket after ticket. And so after the first year, he's had like 5 accidents and gotten 12 tickets. Now, chances are he'd lose his license, but let's just say for the sake of this illustration, he did not. And then he reforms. He says, this is dumb. Mom and Dad are making me pay for my own tickets, and I'm having all these accidents. I've got to stop this. He stops drinking. He starts driving the speed limit. He becomes a safer, wiser driver. The accidents stop. The tickets stop. And for the next year, no accidents and no tickets. And he goes around giving talks about how he has been delivered from his accidents and tickets, which he has. But then after a year passes, he gets kind of missing his old ways, and he starts drinking again. And he starts driving crazy, and he gets, guess what, more accidents and more tickets. So does that mean that the previous year, when he wasn't getting any accidents or tickets, it was meaningless? No. He had truly seen a deliverance, a victory, a change. But you can't go back. You just can't go back. There are some things in life you can't go back. I know kids play video games, and when your car messes up or you lived out your last life, you can just start the game all over again from fresh. But life's not always that way. And there's no going back for the diabetic. Once you've crossed that line, don't go back. Once you've seen the light, don't go back. Don't be a cheater. If you want a keto dessert and you say, I've got to have something sweet, then there are thousands of recipes for keto desserts, including some on my channel. But don't go back. Benedict and I would like to invite you to study the Bible with us through our podcast. Join us in our home as we do our morning Bible studies. With a podcast, there's nothing to see. You just listen. And that means you can enjoy our Bible study while you drive in your car, go for a walk, or work out at the gym. Our podcast is called Discover the Word with Den and Ben, and you can find it in most platforms where you get your podcasts. And if you know nothing at all about podcasts and how they work, there's a link in the description that will help get you started.